Welcome back to Boomer's Playground, and today we're going to be going over section 2.12, Nullish Coalescing Operator. I'm just going to call it NCO for the rest of this video, just because it's a mouthful, I've had a couple drinks, and I don't want to be butchering it this whole video. So the first thing you'll see is it's letting us know that it's a recent addition. It's saying we may need polyfills to support older browsers. I wouldn't worry about this now that Internet Explorer is no longer being supported and Edge is in its place. Edge uses WebKit, so it is pretty up to date on what it supports. But for those that are curious, a polyfill is just when you use a build tool like Babel or Webpack, and if you don't know what those are, don't worry about it. What they do is when the code gets run, it would actually go through and it would look at newer features that may not be supported, and then it will write code to support them in older browsers. It was something that you had to worry about, probably just even 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just not the case anymore. All the browsers support most of the ES6 stuff and most of the new syntax. So this is early enough in your learning that I wouldn't trip. If you don't understand what any of that just was, I'm sorry, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. So the NCO is just 2 question marks. It treats null and undefined the same or similarly. And pretty much for the rest of this, they're just going to say that a value is defined, which just means it's not null or it's not undefined. So the result of A NCO B is if A is defined, 0. If A isn't defined, then give us B. One thing that I want to note about this is the word defined. It's not saying a truthy value like the OR operators, like the 2 pipes. It's saying a defined value. So 0 is false, but it's defined. So if A was 0, we would still get A, even though it's a falsy value, because all the NCO cares about is that it was defined. Same with an empty string. That's a falsy value, but it's a defined value, so we would get A. Even if you had false the Boolean value, that's still a defined value, and so we would still get A. And so I'll show that in some of these exercises. But so here it's just showing, essentially what it's doing is it's just saying, hey, is A null or is A not null, and is A not undefined? If both of those things are true, give us A. If either one of those is not true, give us B. So now they think you should be very clear on what that does. So this is a good example. We've created let user, but we have not given it a value, so it would be undefined or null. And so here we're saying, hey, if user, which right now user has nothing, so it is null or undefined, or not or, NCO, anonymous. So here we'll get anonymous because user has no value. Well, now that we've given user a value, we'll get the user, not the anonymous. You can also chain them together. So this will be a good example that I can show you guys. And I won't alert it. All right. So null is first name, last name is null, and nickname is supercoder. So first name will be null, so we'll skip it. Last name will be null, so we'll skip it. Nickname has a value, so we'll get that value. And you'll see we get supercoder there. So what if first name is an empty string? An empty string is technically false, but it is a value, so let's see what we get. And so here you'll see we get an empty string, because again, these these NCO operators are looking for the first defined value, not necessarily a truthy value. So if we come back here, and let's say we switch these to the OR operator or the pipes, what do you guys think we're going to get? Exactly. We're going to get supercoder. So first name is an empty string, so that's a defined value, But we're not using the NCO. We're using the OR operator, which is looking for the first truthy value. So first name's an empty string, which is a falsy value. Last name is null, which is a falsy value. Nickname is supercoder, which is a truthy value, so that's what we'll get. Okay, so that's pretty much what they just went over there. The OR operator was first, blah, blah, blah. The NCO was added recently, and the reason was that people weren't quite happy with the OR operator. The big difference, like I just explained, was the OR returns the first truthy value, whereas the NCO returns the first defined value. So the OR operator doesn't distinguish between false, 0, an empty string, or null or undefined, while the NCO only cares about null or undefined. So in practice, we want to use default values when the variable is null or undefined. That is when the value is really unknown or not set. So for example, height is 0. Here, this is going to give us 100 because, again, the OR operator is looking for the first truthy value, and 0 is a falsy value. While down here, we get 0 because the NCO only cares that it's a defined value. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. And that's probably what they're just going over here. The NCO has the same precedence as the the OR operator, and we need to use parens with, if we're gonna, well, actually, let's just go over this. All right. So what's happening here, and let's actually do this. We'll go here. All right, so we had height was null and width was null. So if we didn't have the parens, what would have happened was we would have this, and because the multiplication has a higher precedence than the NCO, this part would run first, and it would be 100 times null, which would be not a number or null or whatever. We'll just say null. So now we're going to run left to right. So is null a defined value? It's not. All right, so let's scratch that. Okay, is null a defined value? It's not, so let's scratch that. So then we end up getting 50. Whereas with this, because we have the parens, those take precedence. So we go, okay, well, is null a defined value? It's not. Okay, so we'll use 100. And then same over here, is null a defined value? Well, it's not. Okay, so we'll use 50. And then we just get 100 times 50. Let's see. Yeah, so you'll see we get 5,000, again, because we have these parens. If you want to use the NCO with the AND or the OR operator, you have to use parens. So you'll see this will give us a syntax error. This one does not. And that's the summary. These are pretty useful. They're pretty handy when you want to make sure that you have some sort of value to display, in case maybe somebody, doesn't put something in a form or whatever. This is just an easy way to make sure you have something. So the NCO provides a short way to choose the first defined value from a list. It's usually used to assign default values to variables. The operator has low precedence, only a bit higher than the question mark and the equal sign, so always add parens or consider adding parens when using it. And it's forbidden to use with the or the AND operator without explicit parentheses. I hope you guys learned something today. If you guys had any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section below. Join the Discord server. Discord server link is in the description. And like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.